in the East, we have to start with the Michigan Wolverines. They go 13-1 last year, 10-0 in conference play. Jim Harbaugh was oh so close to another run at a championship. He's what is he, 25-3 over the last 2 years. He has two Big Ten championships, but two semifinal losses. Obviously, that TCU loss was a thriller, an all-time classic, but kind of a head-scratching loss for a program that ran over everybody en route to the college football playoff. Sharon Moore is now the sole offensive coordinator. Jesse Minter fielded the top overall defense. And of course, Mr. Kaki himself is roaming the sidelines. So the coaching staff is as solid as ever. Their offense looks like it's going to be just as elite, if not even more so than they were last year. They were sixth in scoring offense, fifth in rushing offense. And that's where Big Blue's attack starts, right? With their dual-headed running back monster. You've got Blake Corum, who ran for almost 1,500 yards last season, 19 total touchdowns. Donovan Edwards, who was 9 yards shy of 1,000. He had 9 total touchdowns. J.J. McCarthy is coming back for another year at quarterback. He's obviously better than Cade McNamara, who we'll talk about in the Iowa preview. He just has a little bit more consistency to his game. Yet, if he can become even more consistent than what we saw last year, this Michigan team truly might be the best in the country. There are just not a lot of holes up and down this roster. Guys, did you know there has not been a team that had won the Joe Moore Award, which is the best offensive line in back-to-back seasons, ever in college football history? Michigan did that last year. Their offensive line has been a staple of that program. It might be even deeper in this year, 2023. So you talk about back-to-back. We're talking about Georgia maybe winning 3 straight national titles. Michigan might start with 3 straight Joe Moore Awards. And the weapons are really good as well. They've got Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, both explosive downfield threats. They've got A.J. Barner coming over from Indiana at tight end. Barner has started 30 games for the Hoosiers, so he's kind of the next in a run of very, very solid tight ends at Michigan. And then you flip over to the defense. Like, you think, okay, that's great. The offense is elite. Where's the defense? Well, like I said, the defense was the best overall defense in the country last season, 7th in scoring and rushing. They had the 20th best pass defense, and they get even scarier at the pass rushing position. True edge Josiah Stewart comes over from Coastal Carolina. He's bringing 35 and a half tackles for loss and 19 and a half sacks in his career to Ann Arbor, right? They've had David Ojabo. They've had Aiden Hutchinson. Josiah Stewart is the next iteration of edge rusher at Michigan and one of the top overall defenders in the country. You're going to look at guys in the middle, the big uglies at that defensive tackle position. They've got probably 4 or 5 that they can roll deep. Chris Jenkins is going to lead them. The linebackers returning are an all-conference duo in Junior Colson and Michael Barrett. And then, oh, by the way, you have Will Johnson, who may be the best freshman corner in the game. He's back for his sophomore season. He looks like he's going to be a guy who goes, high first round when his draft eligibility comes up. I mean, it's a wealth of talent and resources for Michigan. So, Garrett, you were really high on Michigan last year. Like, as good as that team was, this team truly seems like they don't have any obvious holes.
Yeah, it sure doesn't seem like there's really anything that you're supposed to not like about Michigan this year. I think that when you look up and down the roster, you don't really see any weaknesses. You don't see a spot where you say, okay, well, that has got to be a glaring weakness. They're going to have to cover that some way. Really, when you look at them, you kind of made the joke, Mitch, that it might be just the statistical mean is what they end up running up against, is the fact that, hey, you can't do it 3 years in a row. You're going to have to come back down eventually. But when you look at it, I mean, they've still got a relatively young quarterback. I know that he's, had some time now in that system to really work and develop, but still relatively young. He's starting to develop himself as a leader on that team. I think you see him probably go down the field a little bit more, try to be a little bit more explosive this year. That's probably something they've been working on just to kind of balance it out, but you almost don't need that. When you look at what they had last year in terms of just statistics, you look at some of the offensive numbers, they were still 6th in scoring. Right, they still scored plenty of points without a terribly effective downfield passing offense. The passing offense, as you see, 83rd in the country. Not very explosive. I think they do a lot of that this year. and try to give a little bit of a lighter box to a Blake Corum or a Donovan Edwards, and see what they can do to kind of ease things off a little bit. And on the defense, man, I mean, it's it's a fantastic defense. You're obviously losing some stuff up front, but I think really just turning it over, I think it's just kind of a reload. Let's see what Jesse Minter can do. And I think that they're going to be just fine. I think that they took the steps they needed to last year to improve. I think they're going to take another step in the right direction. And all of that experience is really going to play in when you look at the rest of this conference. Because if you look at the rest of this conference, and we'll obviously talk about this in the other team previews, but looking at the rest of this conference, you're going to have some younger quarterbacks as your main competition. Some guys with a little bit less to offer in terms of experience and what they bring on the field from last year. And I think you're going to have the ability to take advantage of that this next upcoming year, and hopefully be able to run. If you're Michigan fans, you're hopefully being able to run right back to Indianapolis and go back to back for the three-peat.
So, guys, I'm hearing you say all this, and I'm not disagreeing with anything, because I think Michigan is, one of the elite teams in all of college football. Where is the weakness? And that's kind of a relative question, I guess, but I don't know that they have a weakness that's going to cause them to not make the Big Ten championship game. Maybe they get got by Ohio State, maybe they get got by Penn State, by just one team being better on a particular Saturday. Yeah. I don't know if they have a particular weakness that's going to keep them from winning the Big Ten. Maybe they have a weakness that keeps them from winning in the college football playoff when they go up against a Georgia or a USC or whoever they might face there. But where's the weakness in this team?
For me, it's what's the next evolution of JJ McCarthy. What Garrett was saying, right? You have to be able to stretch the field. That's what we saw against TCU, held them back. Was, hey, TCU with a 3-3-5 was able to blow that offensive line off the ball, stuff the running lanes. They were not allowing Donovan Edwards to get any sort of room to operate. And they forced JJ McCarthy to beat them, and he wasn't able to do so, right? He had a couple of really head-scratching interceptions. He just didn't look confident throwing the football down the field. And that was with a guy like Ronnie Bell out wide for them, right? Now, they don't necessarily have the kind of brand name recognition at wide receiver this year, but I do think they have some athletes who, should the offense decide to try and add that to their repertoire, they'll have the ability to do it. Now, for me, the biggest question, Garrett, Trey, like you said, is does that prevent them from winning the Big Ten? I don't have them coming out of the East for the Big Ten championship game. Spoiler alert, we'll get to Penn State in a minute. I think it's going to be a situation where Michigan is on the road. They run into a team who's better for a day. I don't think on paper you can say Penn State is better than Michigan, right? Michigan is, if not the best team in the country, one of the top three. And I don't think Penn State or Ohio State is there quite yet. But I do think on the road, very similar to how they lost to TCU, I think if you have a strong defense, especially in the secondary, that can bow up and prevent McCarthy from throwing the ball down the field while that front seven goes to work, completely focusing on the run, that's the formula for success against Michigan. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I don't know if those ingredients actually wave a green flag and end up in a win against the Wolverines, but that's what we saw TCU do last year.
Yeah, and the big thing that TCU did, Mitch, to your point with the 3-3-5, is they were just fast to the assignment. They played really good assignment defense. They jumped in the holes real quick, and they were able to say, we got our three guys up front. They're not necessarily going to win the point of attack, but we're going to be able to get those three guys behind them to fill the hole, see which direction you're going, and we're going to be able to catch you before this run play can develop. The issue is you can take advantage of that when you've got really good play action, or if you've got really good, sort of ability to take advantage of that and stretch the field a little bit. Michigan couldn't do that consistently last year. That's why I think they started that game a little slow, was because they weren't really able to consistently throw the football. Obviously, JJ stepped up in a big way in that game, and you kind of put the team on his back to bring him back. But I think with a little bit more consistency, with a little bit of a different game plan going in from some of these offenses, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see JJ need to take that next step. He's going to have to be a lot more consistent. He's going to have to be able to throw the football deep. And if he can do that, then Michigan's going to have no issues, right? Michigan's going to cruise through, no real problems. They might, stub their toe here and there, but they're not gonna falter if they can do that. If they can't, right? If JJ doesn't take that step, if nobody really steps up in the receiver core, if they can't replace the tight end, whatever it is, if they can't do that, then yeah, you're going to probably see defenses clamp down and use the TCU formula and just say, yeah, let's just sit back and wait and see which direction they're running. Is it, student body left or student body right? Let's figure out which way we got to go play defense. If they can do that, if opposing defenses can do that, then they're going to be able to shut down Michigan, and Michigan might have a little bit of a tough time. I'm leaning towards the first being true. I think JJ is going to be able to put the team on his back and really be able to throw the ball effectively enough so that Corum and Donovan can be the stars for this offense.
If Michigan, go ahead, Trey.
I was just going to say, I think there's too many weapons on this team, and I think they're finally going to be operating at full capability for the first time in a long time, because I think that's what we were waiting on last year until that Ohio State game. And it's funny to say that for a team that was the 6th best scoring offense in the whole country last year, but they might have been the most ho-hum top 10 scoring offense in college football history, right? You look up and they've grounded out 40 points on just a helpless team in the Big Ten, but I think they are going to be fully operational this year. I'm right there with you, Garrett. I think I'm leaning towards picking them as my champion for the Big Ten as well.
That first month was brutal to watch. 51-7 over Colorado State, 56-10 over Hawaii, 59-0 over UConn. Then they got scared a little bit by Maryland and Iowa. But yeah, that offense certainly at the beginning of the season was just so automatic, and they didn't have to pass, right? I mean, McCarthy did not have to do anything special. It was just student body left, student body right, and celebrate your 8th touchdown of the day. You guys both have Michigan going 12-0, making it to the Big Ten championship game. I'm assuming that comes with a college football playoff appearance. We'll talk more about the college football playoffs, our predictions, of course, at the end of preview season. So stay tuned for that. But Trey and Garrett both have Michigan going 12-0. I have them going 11-1. Like I said, slipping up in Happy Valley.
Gracious him! How about